All right, well, class, here we go. We are halfway through our term. Believe it or not, we are, which is crazy to think, but we are 4 weeks in, and we got 4 weeks. We're 4 weeks in and 4 weeks out until the end. So let me just say this, and I want to reiterate this because I spent even more time reading your content and grading some assignments. So a few things to get back to you. I think maybe one thing, and then of course last week's content. I'm going to give some answers. I wanted to wait until I received all of last unit's 3, 2, 1 response. Now that we're done with our second one, on to our third. I wanted to kind of sort through and get some more overall thoughts and questions. There's lots of good questions. So let me just speak to one question now, and then I'm going to do a separate video and answer a few of them, and I'll actually give you some feedback then in the comments as well. But one question that was asked was about the LMFT and the LPCC. Okay. As I mentioned in my response to this question that was asked, I've been up front the whole time. I'm not an MFT. I'm not an LPC. I'm a CMCS. I'm a Certified Master of Career Services. I'm a career strategist. I'm a career counselor and coach. But I'm not an MFT and I'm not an LPCC. So as far as the specifics, right? So how does this class fit within the context of that? I can speak to the career counseling content perspective, but from certification or licensure or anything of that nature that's outside of my jurisdiction, it's say above my pay grade, or I can't do anything with that. So I don't want to. I don't want to give advice, though you will see in the syllabus that it does. There's some language that I put in there that does speak to the reality that this class is the one, and I use this language in my email response. It's the missing, we'll put that in quotation, class, the missing class from the traditional MFT curriculum. That when you complete it, you then qualify for both the LPCC and the LMFT licensures. Okay. Or licenses. From a career counseling perspective, you are going to, and the literature would back this up and support my statement, that you are going to be a very well prepared, in fact, in some ways, perhaps you could even say more prepared, better prepared to provide career counseling and coaching than someone who's not certified or licensed in those ways, but it does not require any sort of certification or licensure. So the licenses or the certifications that I've pursued, one of them through the National Career Development Association, which is the largest national career development association probably in the nation. That is because I want to have kind of something behind my name that says, actually, I know what I'm doing. I've been doing it, right? So, and I want to be trained in that. So the other side of that is I'm pursuing the GCDF, which is the Global Career Development Facilitator credential, and that's for the Center for Credentialing and Education, and it's something that's global, truly global, international, and is super helpful for me from a learning standpoint. The interesting thing is I'm learning a lot of these things in the courses I'm taking. However, these are also obviously the things that I've been teaching too. So I think that it's not a bad thing to learn things that you perhaps already know. So you might, and you know that already, but you might find that some things that we're talking about in this class are very similar, if not identical, to what you've been learning about in your other classes. And that's not a bad thing. Actually, that's a nice reinforcement of learning that's taking place. So if you have questions about licensure from an LMFT or LPCC standpoint, please talk to your program directors or to the department chair, Vicki Ewing. They'll be much more well versed. They'll know all the Bureau of Behavioral Science, all those different things, right? All the things that you would need to know, they'll be able to tell you about those things. All right, so talk to them. Okay, so this week we're in Unit 5, as I mentioned. We're going to look at Tang, Chapters 8 and 9. I'm looking at my syllabus over here on the other screen. LibTac, Chapters 5 and 6. And then Schwen and Bass, Parts 4 and 5. Okay, so a lot of reading, but hopefully good reading. Here's probably my favorite things. I love reading about the connections that you're making between all of our content and Schwen and Bass. Because I think that that's really the crux. It's where it actually gets more like it's no longer this technical kind of sterilized sometimes, like very theoretical, like it's where the rubber hits the heart road. Like where does it actually matter to the heart? Not just, I know the technical aspect of things, but now it's actually, it's in my heart, and that's a big deal. So I hope that you'll find that to be an enjoyable or continue to find that to be an enjoyable read. We'll also look at information technology and career information, and then we'll be looking at Tang exercise number 3, Tang case study number 5, Schwen and Bass entry and discussion number 5, and then LibTech 321 number 3. And remember, the format of that is 3 takeaways, 2 questions, and 1 actionable item. Okay, so and be thinking about this actionable item as something that you could like take today as you read the content and put into practice tomorrow. Doesn't mean you're going to, but something that you could do. Like, what's one thing? Like, oh my goodness, this was such a great thought. Boom, I could do this. And then 2 questions about the LibTech reading. Okay, not about, I wonder what my role is in this, or actually what does the text say? Or maybe even as you think about how does it integrate with the rest of the content you're studying, looking at those aspects, and those are the questions that I'm wanting to get from you. Because I want to know kind of where are you coming from? Like, what doesn't make sense? Okay, so what can I speak to? And I'll just tell you up front, I can't speak to everything. There's just certain things that, like the licensure things, I can't speak to that. But I'll give you as best an answer as I can, but I also don't want to make things up. I just want to speak within kind of my wheelhouse and my area of expertise. And so oftentimes I might say, I had a number of questions, I just don't know the answers to that. Here's who you'd want to talk to, or you're better served by talking to the MFT or LPCC folks and those that are program directors like I did earlier in this video. All right. So a couple things to keep in mind as you get into the modules. Okay, so Schwen and Bass discussion, you are going to continue on, and I want to, just remember what's being asked of you in the syllabus, okay? So you'll read Parable of Talents, Of His Blindness, 2 Kinds, The Ancient People, and then 2 other entries, okay? And this is where I just want you to connect this content, all right? So at some point here, we'll be kind of mixing things up a little bit, but right now that's where we're at in Unit 5, okay? So if you have questions, please email me. I think you'll find that I've been really trying to get back to you very quickly. Okay, very, very quickly. If I haven't, then something's going on. For some reason, you're not getting a response here. Maybe I missed the email, or perhaps it didn't even go through. Okay, so let me give you kind of a big picture idea. And if you didn't, wait 48 hours and then send me a note again. There's a couple things I want to talk about again, and then I'm going to give you a big picture. One of those things is working ahead. And I understand lots of classes happening, and I've had some requests to open some things up and thought it might have been a systems issue, but it's just the fact that it's been locked. I can open things up, but I'm hesitant to do that because I don't want this class to be a check the box. Okay, all too often, the way that we treat education is a box checker. Okay, so I can't remember who it was that said this, and I wish it was original to me. Maybe I put my spin on it, but it's not my idea originally. But whoever this individual was, they said this. They said, education is the one commodity that we're willing to pay top dollar for and expect nothing in return. Right? You've heard the saying that we get out of it what we put into it. And I think there's a number of us who would say, I just want to take a class, I want to be done with the class, and I want to move on and be able to qualify for the LMFT and the LPCC licensures. And when I taught this class face-to-face, the question that I would ask, and oftentimes the question I'll ask in a face-to-face is, why are you in this class? And I got, you can imagine a number of different responses as far as why somebody would be in this class. And that's fine. That's good, and that's fine. And I would tell students all the time, I would say, here's the deal. I want you to hear me, and don't hear me saying this in a mean way. I don't care. I would ask the question, why are you here? Why in this class? And they would give me answers. And I'd say, let me tell you this. I don't care why you're here. And they'd go, what? You're awful. You don't care why we're here? And I would say, but let me finish. I don't care why you're here. And as far as it doesn't really matter to me why you're here. I just care that you're here. And I know, much like Annie Downs, she's a speaker and author and a teacher, she says that she believes her calling in life, and maybe I mentioned this beforehand, is to be the friend that hangs around just long enough for you to learn something. Now, am I expecting that we're going to be best friends? No. But I would hope, I would expect, I would anticipate, and really just yearn for that you would say, I hung out in that class just long enough for me to learn something. And if we treat this class as just a box being checked, then we miss. And I hear a lot of students that say, I'm only here because I want to get the dual licensure. And again, I don't care. It's no big deal to me. I think that's great. But I would hate for us to miss something along the way. And that goes for me learning from you and you learning from me. And so, again, I've got to contemplate this idea for the last 5 or 4 weeks, opening up things early, because I just don't want us to get lost and miss something. I want us to kind of just, in a sense, feel like we get to rest in this content. And maybe that sounds silly, but I don't think that it is. Because I think what you have the opportunity and the potential to learn in this course is really, really valuable, and could potentially alter in some ways the direction. In fact, some of the comments I've read, sometimes I have to ask myself if I'm just making I mentioned this last week, a big mistake. Is this a waste of time and money to get into this program? In this other class I'm teaching this week, we're looking at the question: is work in and of itself meaningful, or do we bring meaning to work, right? Can we find meaning? Can we bring meaning to and find meaning in seemingly or meaningless work? Can we? I think you can. I think you can make anything meaningful. And you go, well, oh, that's easy to say. No, I think you can, because I don't think we necessarily need to find meaning in the work itself, but the work that we get to do can be meaningful because we bring meaning to it. I know that's kind of a convoluted way of thinking it. But I guess that kind of is my lead into what the big picture is. This big picture is, I want you to think, I want to paint a big picture, if you will, about the importance of career. So if you think about where we were this last 4 weeks. So the first 2 weeks you spent time looking at well-being. And yes, I know I have to get your papers back to you. And we read that book really intentionally because I want you to see that at least in those 5 elements, the most important element is, in fact, career, from how it affects the other elements, right? How it affects one personally. Painting the picture. I told you kind of a bit of a vignette story, case study of sorts last week about how career could play into a family counseling situation. Career's everywhere. I was watching just a video even today. I'm taking a class on the foundations of happiness at work right now. From University of California at Berkeley, through a program, three-course program in the science of happiness at work. And a lot of what they're talking about in this class is what we're talking about in this class. I think they said the statistic was 47% of our waking hours in the week. I'm not a good math person, but that sounds about right, are spent at work potentially, or getting to work, or in lunch, right? So if you think about that, an hour to work or so if you're in Los Angeles, an hour back, 2 hours, an hour for lunch, 3 hours, 8 hours of work, 11 hours total out of 24. It's almost 50%, right? So it's, 12, obviously, but the waking hours, it's going to be more than that in the day. And so work is so important. So I want us to be thinking large picture, large scale. How does work affect everything? And I want us to start seeing how our work affects everything, not in a bad, negative kind of discouraging way, but how can we help to make work better? How can we help to find people work that they're engaged in, right? So this idea of called perks. So how do we help people find purpose, to be engaged, to be resilient in the face of stress, and then to be kind and to draw out kindness from one another? When you have those elements, people will be more, I think, career well-being will be higher, and their overall success, according to what Gallup would say, will be significantly higher. So next week, we're actually going to look, instead of doing a Schwen and Bass response, we'll actually look at some artifacts, so some things that stand out to us, and we go, oh, yeah, I can see how career fits into this, and I'll talk more about that in a bit. But it's a really fun assignment. There's no interaction as far as engaged discussion, so it's a bit of a breather. It's a bit of a relaxer in the middle of the semester or the term, so I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on that. So this is big. Career is big. And again, I'll go back to the idea. It doesn't really matter to me why you're here. I'm just so glad that you're here. And I hope that you will find great meaning in the content, and that it will affect the work that you do with other people, and it will affect the work that you do with yourself personally. All right? Have a great Unit 5. I'm really looking forward to engaging again with you in the content and the learning. If I can be of support or help in any way, please reach out. Happy to get back to you as soon as I can. All right? Have a great week, and we'll see you online.